My name's Justin Cross. I'm here with the Niche Players. I'm here with Joel Saunders, who's been featuring here at the Comedy Zone. He just got done with his 5th show for the weekend, so he's done. Joel, give us a little wrap-up on the weekend's events. How would you categorize? You've been in the comedy industry for a while now. How did this week's shows rank versus your average show?
These are the worst shows of my life, Justin. I've never had such an appalling week as I've had here in Tallahassee. It's been atrocious.
What would you say contributed to that?
I think it's just the town. I think it's just this place. Do you know? No, I'm kidding. It's been a good week.
It's got a smell to it, doesn't it?
It's been a good week, Justin. I've enjoyed it very much. The last show wasn't the best. It was okay. It was average. Let's see. Thursday was quite good. Friday I loved. Last night was my favourite. I loved last night. Well, we had the blind guy, didn't we?
Tell us. Actually, it's a good story. Tell us about that story.
Well, this will be on YouTube very shortly. So if you type my name and Tallahassee, this will hopefully.
Joel Saunders.
Joel Saunders with a no you. Well, I was. There was a guy on the front table who had a very thick Southern accent, really thick, and I said to him, "I love the way you speak, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm only pretending to understand what you're actually saying." And he said, "Well, that's cool, because I'm only pretending I can see you." And at that point, he handed me his white stick, which was actually in 4 bits. And I commented on the fact that if I was blind, I think I would probably consider it a worthwhile investment to have a white stick that was in one piece, rather than one that I had to actually put together every time I wanted to walk somewhere. And and then there were various other things that happened, which if you check out the YouTube clip, you will see. But it was just it was one of the weirdest, it was probably the second weirdest thing I've ever had handed to me.
Really?
While I've been on stage. The weirdest thing was somebody gave me their legs once while I was in, they had false legs. I was in Arkansas and they gave me their false legs.
That's my follow-up right there. Where you were in Arkansas.
Hot Springs, Arkansas, the hometown of Bill Clinton. That's where that happened. And this very drunk woman. And the weirdest thing about that show, is I've never seen this happen anywhere, it was a Saturday night, 2 shows. The audience watched the first show.
Right.
And then at the end of the first show, whereas normally the audience would leave and a different audience would come in, that's not what happened there. What happened is the audience stayed at the end of the first show, maybe 5 of them left, and then another 10, 15 new people arrived, and the same comedians did exactly the same show to pretty much exactly the same audience, including this woman who, by the second show, had become so drunk that she detached her legs and threw them on the stage. She thought that would be a good idea, and I thought it would be a good idea if I didn't give them back.
I have to ask you, how did if they saw your performance for the second time, how did they take to that? I mean, they already knew the jokes, or hopefully they did. I mean, they're from Arkansas, so I don't know.
Because of the whole thing with the legs, even though I'd planned to do the same show, it ended up being a completely different show. It was mostly improvisation around the fact that I wouldn't be giving this woman her legs back, and she wanted me to give them back because she wanted to go to the toilet, and I said, well, why don't you try detaching your vagina and giving it to a friend? And that was the kind of thing
that's going on here, by the way. We don't edit anything, by the way, so that's
well, now you tell me. Now you tell me. Why couldn't you have told me that at the beginning, for fuck's sake?
We aren't in the UK, we're in Tallahassee.
It's ridiculous. What do you mean, why can't you edit it?
Wait, sodomy is illegal here.
It's like Maury Povich or something, because they don't edit Maury Povich, do they?
No, they don't.
I've talked about it on stage when I've been in the studio audience. There is no editing. They film for an hour, they show an hour. That's it. What happens goes out. A few beeps.
Have you sat in the audience of the Maury Povich show?
19, 20 times. I'm not exaggerating.
Wait, are you the guy who starts to... Because I'm not a big Maury fan. I was a Jerry fan originally.
I've watched Jerry twice too.
You know what my favorite part about the Jerry... not the Jerry chant, but the Steve chant for his security guard?
Yeah, but he's now got his own talk show.
I know.
He's a real arsehole on that, isn't he?
Yeah.
I love him on that. I love Steve on that show. I did see Springer. The first time I came here in '98, I was in Chicago, and the Comedy Club arranged for me to have VIP tickets to see Springer. So I was on the front row, and I even got to ask a question. And I have to say, more people have recognised me from that appearance on Jerry Springer from anything I've ever done in comedy.
I gotta ask you, what was your question?
Well, it wasn't really a question, it was more of an observation. I said, look, you two on stage, I think instead of all this fighting and this swearing and throwing chairs, what you all need to do after the show is just sit down and talk your problems through over a nice cup of tea. Yeah? And the whole audience went, Jerry. Yeah. And this woman on stage looked at me and she said, ain't gonna be no tea and crumpets, motherfucker. Welcome to America.
That's what I was going to say. No, that's a great segue, because I was going to ask you, you're over here 2 months doing your tour. How far are you into your U.S. tour? And then also, just observations of the U.S. compared to Great Britain, which I have to say is a fine, fine county. I'm sorry, country. I'm sorry, continent. You guys are whatever your establishment is
We're a
nowadays.
fucking island, mate. We're a fucking island. Don't you forget it. An island.
An island. I apologize.
We're an empire.
That's right. Well, you're our allies in war.
We're a kingdom.
You're our allies in war. We're like this.
Yeah, allies is one word for it. Yeah.
No, but please tell us about your I guess the main differences, if there are any, and maybe there aren't, between the U.S. and the U.K. Just some observations you have here in the U.S.
You people talk real funny.
Do we?
Talk really strangely here, and you drive on the wrong side of the road. What is it? What is it with that? And I want to make it absolutely clear that while I drive in this country, I do maintain the British tradition, and I drive on the side of the road I'm used to.
The left side.
I drive on exactly, and
That's the problem, though.
there's a lot of problems with oncoming traffic. I find a lot.
We're controlled by the right, both governmentally and as far as traffic goes. Okay, now I have to. So let me tell you. Let's do a promotion stuff. Actually, before we do the promotion stuff, let me ask you. I asked Matt this before. Before this, what was the worst gig? You mentioned the Hot Springs, Arkansas show.
Worst gig?
What was your worst gig?
In America?
Anywhere.
I don't know. What constitutes a bad gig? All gigs have good things and, bad things about them.
This is the problem with the British.
The bad one would have been, I remember being in Macon, Georgia. I had a whole week there, and this was going back 7 or 8 years. And basically, the promoter called me up. This was after I'd booked my flights. So the flights are booked. My car is paid for. And they called me up 2 weeks before to say, hey, Joel, I've got some really bad news for you. I'm afraid the club has decided that they're going to go urban that week. And I'd never heard this expression. And I said, well, what do you mean urban? You mean it's closed? What do you mean? Oh, no, it's going to be a black show. And I said, well, that's all very well, but I've got my flights and I've got my car, and I am going to be in Macon, Georgia that week. So they agreed to keep me on the show. And looking back, that probably was not a good thing to do from their point of view, or from my point of view either. So I had a fairly horrific week doing shows to 400 black people per night who, they weren't rude or anything, they just went real quiet. Real quiet, it was just... They just didn't get me at all, and to be fair, I was really rubbish in those days anyway. Yeah. Oddly enough, last week I was in Jacksonville, and it was the first time since then that I had the same experience because I was opening for David Allen Greer, and they were mostly black crowds too, very similar to what those crowds in Macon were, but actually they ended up being fantastic shows. I really enjoyed them, so that was actually a good thing for me because it was a demonstration to me as to how I've developed.
You've got street cred too. You got street cred, am I right?
So they just like the real goofy stuff. I think I used to be a little more the stiff upper lip kind of performer back in those days, whereas now I let the kind of goofy side really take over.
I have to ask you,
guys go crazy and all that stuff.
I have to ask you, we got just a minute here. A little promotion stuff. Tell us about where you're going to be, what you're doing, website, MySpace. Promote yourself, all you can here.
The website, joelsanders.co.uk, you can find me there. But if you go to YouTube and put in Joel Sanders, that's Sanders, you'll find loads of stuff on me there. So that's probably all I want to promote at the moment. But I will be back in this good country in June, and I'll be in Tennessee in June. I know I'm going to be back in Florida in Port Charlotte, and I'm going to be in the Bahamas for 2 weeks then as well. So hopefully this will be a good timing.
And you have a CD, right? You have a CD?
DVD.
DVD,
yes.
DVD.
That's available through my website, joelsanders.co.uk.
There we go.
There we go.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Joel. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin Cross.
Thank you.